Welcome to the Motoring Podcast, your weekly discussion of motoring news. This is episode 593 on Tuesday, the 27th of August, 2024. Hello, I'm Alan.
Hello, I'm Andrew. And in a week where we welcome more joining us in automotive podcast land, we'll be asking what on earth is going on several times. In new car news, we see an attractive electric car can be built. And in points of interest, we channel our inner aero engineers. We jump straight into new news. No follow-up this week. And this is the news coming from Autocar following a report from Cox Automotive, who are a consultancy helping out those who wish to sell vehicles, but saying that in the UK, the end of the year will have the same sort of challenges as were felt in the 2008 economic crash and the pandemic of the 2020 times.
I actually thought you were going to say, who's saying that the end is nigh, is where I thought that was going.
No, not quite, but it's not far off in some of the dramaticness of this.
They are, but again...
They're making some good points, though.
There are good points there, but as ever with many of these sort of industry-specific reports, they look at the industry, but they don't necessarily always take into account the entire environment roundabout. And really the honest truth of the entire environment roundabout is that it's all a bit crummy, isn't it?
Mm.
And with more energy rises on the way, and goodness knows there won't be any drops in energy cost, with all general sort of cost of living continuing to get higher.
Yeah. Just because it's a lower interest rate rise doesn't mean that's better, because it's on the back of 22% interest rise in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Or inflation rise,
yeah.
Sorry. Not interest.
Yes. And so stuff's getting more expensive.
They are highlighting in their report, there is the challenges that are already there for the market, i.e. the cost of living crisis and private not buying, and the fleet is being propped up by most likely the fact that there are government incentives through tax breaks, but about what they are quoting as saying as an unrealistic and unnatural market, talking about the zero emission vehicle mandate, which is not going to be changed. This is something we have to deal with, but it's something we talked about many times last year, saying we're going to find out if a government can create a market. And they go on in this Autocar article that is linked in the show notes as ever, they go on to discuss that car manufacturers are trying their best with financial incentives, but realistically, they're going to limit the alternatives. We've heard that from Ford, who said, we will throttle demand, not by reducing or removing cars from sale, but by putting the price up of internal combustion engine vehicles. That's not throttling. That's taking advantage. No. But never mind.
Well, it is. You need to make people buy the EVs. The EVs are making we'll come to this in a bit, but the EVs aren't profitable for Ford yet.
No.
So as a result, we need to make more profit on the things that are profitable. There's a certain point it comes down to, well, actually, that was, it's what you got to do because it makes business sense.
Yep. They then go on also to mention, which is something that doesn't get talked about enough. I know we say it on this show, but it's good to see others are picking up on this, is the unpredictable nature of the residual values.
Yeah.
Because we hear from many that go, oh, isn't it brilliant? Secondhand prices are down. But the problem is someone has taken that hit, and that means it is not sustainable either from the OEM themselves or from the company that leases or is leasing out the vehicle or is financing the vehicle, because the guaranteed value is not there.
As I said last week. Yes, exactly.
We're trying not to be doom and gloom about this, but there is a certain amount of reality that has to be accepted and understood, and no amount of only talk about positive things are going to fix that. That just can't be done. So we just have to keep eye on this. It is going to be, I think this is the quarter where most of the shifting is going to take place, not the fourth quarter, as companies try and get ahead of that last quarter panic.
Mm-hmm.
I think we will see more internal combustion engine vehicles being removed from market. We've heard from several manufacturers in the past couple of months that are doing it. We're going to be discussing it in the second part of the show. Some others are being removed, although that's not necessarily down to just the zero-emission vehicle mandate. There are other factors involved.
There's other reasons.
The decision has been easy because of other factors.
Mm-hmm.
What I think I'm trying to say is we have to stop just pretending everything's fine. Equally, it's not all the end of the world. It is, as ever, somewhere in the middle.
Yes.
Well, do you want to take us to one manufacturer that seems to be taking sensible steps, actually?
It's CATERHAM, well-known mass-market manufacturer.
If only I would.
I know, me too. CATERHAM are going to create a separate company to fund the Project V. I don't know if it's Project V or Project 5, so I'm just going to say Project V. My apologies. Project V EV. The CEO, Bob Leashley, is saying that the electric sports coupe is progressing. There will be prototypes soon. But what they've done is they've spun off this separate company. And the idea is that way, then it gets funded by investors. On the, believe it or not, Autocar podcast, they said that the EV falls under a separate firm called Caterham Evo because the meager profits we make from selling sevens, quote unquote, won't fund its development. So the idea is that this Caterham continues to be Caterham and to build the sevens, and it's nice and safe. And the EV aspect is handled by the separate company, money coming from within VT Holdings, Caterham's parent company, or some external funding. But it means the two can be kept separate, just in case stuff doesn't work out, really.
Mm-hmm.
Car won't be built in the new factory in Dartford. It will have to be built somewhere else. Oh, one other thing that comes into that, by the way, as large manufacturers stop building internal combustion engines, then Caterham, who of course doesn't build its own engines, it keeps having to look in other places for supplies of engines. They do, however, have a backstock of 1.6 litre Ford Sigma engines and also 2 litre Duratec ones. There's a warehouse somewhere filled with crate engines just waiting to slide into Caterham somewhere. So,
well, I can see horse galloping to the rescue here.
Something like that.
But talking about companies and EVs and how they can be a drag on the central group company, Ford has revised its EV plans. Is this again? Oh, I can't keep up with it actually anymore. But what they've said in the US is that they are going to cancel the electric 3-row SUV, and that's now going to be hybrid.
You see, that actually, it does make sense because people who are buying 3-row SUVs like that along it's going to have to be larger than an Explorer, so it becomes an Expedition along that kind of line. And of course, the accompanying Lincoln and whatever, they tend to use them for road trips and bigger trips and family trips away places. And unless there is a battery so massive, the likes of which we have yet to see unless you drive one of the new GM Hummer EVs, then it's going to be incredibly costly to produce, incredibly wasteful.
Well, it depends how well is the EV9 being sold.
Well, that's true. I do see quite a few.
It is a fair point you make. However, that competition is the EV9.
It is, but there may be a difference in market across the country because you tend to see more of those kind of things near the coasts. And then as you go further inland, then you start to see more of the Ford and GM products only type of thing. And Ford, GM, and Toyota.
You mean the companies that have got the companies that have got dealerships absolutely everywhere?
The big three of American automotive these days. You tend to see that. I think it is a slightly different market. And I think that to accommodate both use cases, we are going on a road trip, characterized by certainly the Ford Expedition I saw on the New Jersey Turnpike, which had a roof box and one of those little trays hanging off the trailer hitch behind with like coolers and stuff on it. If a National Lampoon's Family Vacation was made now, then that's basically what it would have been. I mean, it was only some fake wood down the side away from being the family truckster. I think they need the hybrid to be able to, for people to take on that market too, so that they can buy a vehicle that does both and that it can potter around the place being all hybridy and possibly even plug-in hybrid. But it's still there. Somebody's not going to be put off and go, how am I going to drive to Florida? Type of thing. I do see that, and I think a 3-row electric SUV is probably quite brave.
Okay, well, other things they're doing then as well is they are going to be bringing out a mid-sized electric pickup truck, not a compact one as had been assumed by many in the media and therefore social media.
Yeah. Leading to this wonderful rendering on the Inside EV story that will be linked in the show notes, which is in no way, shape, or form a Hyundai Santa Cruz with a different front scribbled on. Yeah.
We give autocars some kicking for their rendered images at times, but this is truly another level of bad.
Yes.
I think it's the only way to describe it. It's just poor. But anyway, do click the link to have a look at it because you have to see it to believe it. But also they're going to be putting back their large electric pickup to 2027, or the second half of 2027, which is 18 months later than they initially said. And all of this is going to cost an additional $1.9 billion on a division that in their last earning calls, they were making their investors incredibly cross with the amount of money they weren't making already. This is... I don't know whether this is companies reacting to how the media is saying, oh, look at all these hybrids, look at, no one wants an electric car, even though electric car sales and registrations are still going up, just not as hockey stick-like as people were promised they would.
Yeah, but as he says, he's quoted in this article, these huge, enormous EVs are never going to make money. The battery is $50,000, even with low nickel LFP chemistry. They will never be affordable. That's the problem. It's not that you can't technologically do it or you can't build it. It's just nobody's going to be able to afford the ruddy thing.
Well, yeah. I was saying to you before that YouTube has recommended several videos of a chap going around American dealership lots, and he's pointing out how they're full of certain types of cars depending on the brand. This is the interesting bit. He goes and says, right, here's the window price. And you see,
but that's the window price. That's before the dealer has added on the super extra paint protection, the maps, the
admin fee,
the admin fee, which is like the cost of doing business, and the $80 set of USB cables, Toyota, and Lexus.
And you look at the prices and you go, yeah, I can see why that parking lot is absolutely rammed with them and is not selling them because they are eye-wateringly expensive.
Yeah.
It's what we were saying in the first story of the show. People do not have the same disposable income at the moment anywhere.
In America, I am amazed by the level of disposable income people seem to have. And even that seems to have been reducing over it's not so bad here. I don't think it's as bad here as it is in the UK. But I think it hit earlier and it's further through the cycle. But then that might change come November.
Yeah. This is just why electric cars are costing what they are. I think in this country, whilst, yes, we have had companies saying, oh, we are targeting high profit margin models, etc., particularly in the immediate aftermath of COVID, which was very good of them to tell us that they were actively trying to rip us off.
Yes.
That isn't forgotten.
Consider it.
That isn't forgotten, chaps. Don't worry. But the reality is to make an electric car is more expensive than to make an ICE car because we are still so new into the development of them compared to the internal combustion engine.
Yes.
Right. I am going to suggest, Alan, that you slowly take us back to the UK.
To mess things up takes government. To really mess things up takes local government. Louise Hay, the new transport minister, has said that councils will get the power to implement 20 mile an hour and low traffic zones and won't need central government sign off in the future.
Yeah, because that is what the last government suddenly said they were going to do, even though they had implemented the whole idea that 20 mile an hour and low traffic zones could be done by councils previously.
They'd done it previously, and then they said, oh, no, we want to have a pro-motorist agenda. And they promised to block councils from introducing these. The thing is, the low traffic neighbourhoods, 20 mile an hour speed zones, where necessarily most of Corby, 20 mile an hour speed limit, and didn't seem to make much difference. They just put loads of speed bumps.
To be fair, they're not speed bumps.
They're not. They're flipping tank traps, which completely defeats the purpose. So it's only small cars that they actually have to slow down and stop and get damaged by them. But actually, 20 mile an hour zone, low traffic neighborhoods, the idea is good. The implementation just normally sucks because there has been absolutely no planning, thought, understanding of the impacts. It's just somebody going along going, this should be a low traffic neighbourhood.
Yeah, the problem also is that...
Scattering flower petals ahead of themselves.
Yeah, quite. Disney rabbits and birds doing it for them and everything. The problem has been that in a few instances, the people promoting them have been found to have massaged the numbers or lied or been selective when they did their recording and stuff like that. So that when you go, well, but hang on, that's not reality. They go, oh, well, we've got all these data. And you go, well, that's not true. And
lies, damn lies and statistics, Andrew.
Well, yeah, but some have been shown to be lying and still it gets implemented. And then that just adds fuel to the, well, we aren't being listened to, we're being ignored. And then we're into the whole culture war nonsense that is just so dreadful at the moment.
She has said, though, and it's quoted the last paragraph of this Autocar article, it all has to be done with communities, absolutely. And the worst thing you can do is put the wrong scheme in, because then it erodes support and they can be unsafe in some circumstances. So there is an understanding of getting it wrong. This isn't just a go forth and scatter speed bumps.
Yeah, they're not saying everywhere needs to be 20. They're not saying throw those huge planters everywhere. Interestingly, last week, I spent a couple of days driving through mid-Wales and got to experience the 20 mile an hour implementation, not where I normally go in North Wales. And I was shocked at how inconsistent it was.
I think that's what people have said a lot about the Welsh one, is the inconsistency. And to me, that, by the way, is the worry about it being done by local councils.
Well, I've spoken to friends of the show where they've been in meetings where 20 mile an hours were discussed to be introduced. And you think speed limits are introduced because there are general safety issues, there are sort of like near a school.
Well, that's how it used to be done quite a while ago.
Yeah. One friend of ours who was in a meeting and they were discussing changing the speed limit of a certain road. And he asked the question, so how many actual road incidents have there been? And the council said, we don't know. He said, well, good, because I do. 0 in the last 5 years. So unfortunately, which also helps feed the culture war narrative, is it's being done on a gut feeling or a belief. And it's not done on stats and data and facts. And that's where it all falls down. If you can't back it up with facts, you really have to be very careful how you're doing it. Otherwise, you do come across like you are trying to impose on people.
Yes. And I think that there's some towns and cities in the UK and the areas around them that seems to have been the case.
Yeah. But anyway, moving away from said things, let's move on to Toyota in the US. And they have confirmed that 240 gigabytes of stolen data have been released onto a hacking forum. To make this clear, Toyota USA have come back and said that it wasn't from their own system. And looking at data that bleepingcomputer.com that we're linking to has seen, they suspect that this was on a backup server, which would imply another company offering this service.
Hosted by a third-party service.
Yeah. Things like employee and customer data was revealed, finance stuff, contracts, also passwords, emails, and network infrastructure. 240 gigabytes is just massive. It's huge. And well, here we are again. We are going to be saying this for all companies repeatedly, I think, until we get better at it. But also there will always be some 0-day thing that nobody knew was going to be a problem 10 years ago, but now is, and stuff like that. So there will be some genuine accidents, as it were, but there will be some stuff that is stupidity. And I'm not saying that this is stupidity in this instance, because very little info has come out on this.
This looks like quite an old Active Directory setup type issue.
Yeah.
Going to the store for bleepingcomputer.com.
Yep. I think that brings us kicking and screaming to the end of the first part, Alan.
It does. And where we'd normally put in Guilt Minute and try and get you to donate maybe a small amount of cash in a general way, we're not going to do that today. Hopefully I've just dropped a big enough hint that we don't need to. Instead, we've got a public information announcement for you. There will be a link in the show notes to this information as well. But Apple Podcasts, which is a very convenient podcasting service and free, is now available on Android and indeed others, whatever other platform you wish. From Chrome, if you go to podcasts.apple.com, you can then now add that straight onto your Android device home screen. You can then treat it like a normal app. If you log in with your Apple ID, then stuff will sync. If you create an Apple ID, that stuff will sync properly. Then it will function just like a podcast player. I think it's online only.
But you don't have to log in either.
You don't have to log in, so you can listen to us without that.
Yeah.
But this looks like a very, very easy way to be able to get the latest shows from the Motoring Podcast straight to your Android phone without having to necessarily fight with the complications of some of the podcast apps.
I mean, we've still been searching for an Android preferred. The best we could come up with, which is pretty good, don't get me wrong, but the best we could come up with when trying to find an alternative to Google Podcasts to recommend to you all is Pocket Casts.
Mm-hmm.
If you use Android or you know someone who uses Android and might enjoy any podcast, it doesn't matter, but ideally ours, then do pass on the link that will be in the show notes, please.
Yep. Thank you so much. New car news, Andrew.
Yes. I was so glad you didn't talk about this last week.
I intentionally didn't talk about this last week, but if you keep making noises like that, I'm getting a bit freaked out, and I'm kind of wishing I had talked about it last week.
Mazda has revealed an electric car, and it looks brilliant. The Mazda, well, the naming's awful, EZ-6, which is in similar size to the Mazda 6, funnily enough. Whilst it was shown in the Beijing Motor Show back in April, it is going to come to Europe with the idea that there could be a UK launch as well. Therefore, everyone who can, please go and badger Mazda and say, please bring this to the UK. And then if they do, my word, get it on your company salary sacrifice scheme.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm so happy to see a car. And I'm not trying to do the, is it an electric SUV thing? I'm not trying to do that because I do understand why most car companies do go down an SUV for packaging purposes. However, and we've said it many times, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
How good Mazda's design is, how clean, how sophisticated, and how grown up. It feels very grown up, particularly in today's market.
Yeah, definitely.
And this is just another example of that.
It's all part of the Jinba Itai ethos. Car and driver as one.
Excellent.
You have to say it in that voice, by the way.
Please bring it.
Yeah, it is very cool, and it's nice to have something that EV saloon that doesn't look like it's pregnant. Good looking thing. Meanwhile, let's talk about an electric SUV. This one's not necessarily coming to the UK yet, but it is quite interesting given its package. The Dongfeng Nammi Box, it also has a very cool name. Did I mention that? Is a £19,615, so I imagine 20,000 euros, or in this case, 20,000 Swiss francs, budget EV for Europe. It has been launched in Switzerland as a rival to the EC3 Citroën, and it offers 193 miles of range and 94 brake horsepower.
Which will be plenty in an electric vehicle of that size.
Yes.
Because you've got the immediate response.
Well, absolutely. And you don't necessarily want to get from 0 to 60 in 2.3 seconds or whatever.
No, I like my kidneys.
Well, this is an interesting one because it could be one of the first cars that Dongfeng builds at the factory that it's proposing to build in Italy.
Mm.
Even if there is a place in Italy called Nammi Box, they will be allowed to sell it. And it's one of those car plants that's really bugging Stellantis, I think.
Yes.
Understandably. Of course, if they did that, then it avoids all of the forthcoming taxes and tariffs.
Yep.
That helps keep the price down. And it looks pretty good. I mean, inside it's got one of those none of the buttons type interiors.
But that's Chinese, isn't it?
It is very much so, where almost everything is controlled via a screen. But otherwise, it actually looks quite nice. And I mean, obviously, we've only got press photos to go from at this point.
Mm.
but it looks quite nicely done. There's quite a lot of stitched white leather, which I just look at it and go, "Oh, that's going to get dirty."
2 school runs later.
Yes, but I'm sure that won't be the case. I'm sure that other colours, your mileage may vary and other colours are available. Yeah. The Chinese version gets a smaller 31.5 kilowatt hour battery instead of the 42.3 kilowatt hour they're proposing for Europe, but they're saying they probably won't offer the smaller battery in Europe. I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's inoffensive.
It's sort of generic modern hatch with a different coloured roof.
Yeah.
And a funny thing going on the C-pillar. I mean, that's par for the course in the in B-segment hatch these days.
Totally inoffensive.
Yep.
Okay, now we're going, as we put the funeral march on, and mention a few cars that are no longer going to be. And we'll start with the fact that Fiat are culling the 500 and the Abarth after 17 years on sale. I didn't realise it was that old. I knew it was old, but I didn't realise it was that old.
It's been around a while.
What we were saying in the first part of the show, this is the fact it's 17 years old. It makes it very easy to go, let's get rid of that.
Well, it's 17 years old and it's still based on an unshared platform. Well, it was shared at the time. At the time, it was shared with the second generation Ford Ka, the one that looked a bit like a fish.
Yes.
Well, it did. It was a shared platform then, but now, of course, so they'll be looking for some generic Stellanto platform.
Yeah.
To place any future version on.
Well, the 600's already on something else, isn't it?
Yes, and the 500 Hybrida will be launched relatively soon, which is the 500e platform, because the 500e sits on a different platform from the internal combustion 500 with a hybrid drivetrain instead. So really, it's sort of getting rid of the old platform and then slowly moving stuff onto the newer platform.
Yeah, and that all ties back into the why Stellantis have been hit by so many costs and profits drop.
Mm-hmm.
This will be one of the contributing factors, but this will be changing. But it's not the only Fiat that gets a culling, is it, Alan?
It isn't, no. The Panda is no more. It's gone for sale in the UK anyway, where it's been available for a mere 12 years.
Oh, it's just a young pup.
It is. With this and the Skyline GTR, Nissan GTR being removed from sale, it does make me wonder what the longest running model is now.
Oh, that's a good question.
Because these were some of the stalwarts of things that haven't changed that much over quite a long time.
Well, listeners, if you know, do get in touch, actually.
Oh, at least one will.
Yeah.
We know that. Probably going to stay on sale for a little while longer across the rest of Europe until the Grandi Pandy. Can't believe it did that. And at the same time.
The CEO of Fiat has said that there will be a rise of Panda production of about 20% this year because there is an increase in demand in native Italy. So,
exactly.
So there we go. Left-hand drive, cheaper than the right-hand drive.
Obviously. Well, it's bigger quantities.
Bigger market, everything.
Speaking of which, bigger markets and stuff.
Genesis are going to drop the G70 and the GV80 from the UK. That is the 3 Series on the G70, which also had the Sportback estate, which I liked. And the GV80 was an X5 rival, which you tried that one, didn't you?
No.
Was it
I had
not
GV70.
The 70,
which was the GV80 is a bit big.
Yeah.
So the GV70 is X3 size. I had it and it was universally liked. I should point out the estate G70 was never sold here in North America, but the saloon and also the GV80 are pretty popular around here anyway. I was beside a G70 in traffic just before the weekend, I think. Might have been over the weekend. And then the GV80s are really quite popular. Certainly immediately around me.
Well, they're distinctive looking.
Well, if you want a distinctive looking one, or odd looking, depending on your point of view, then there is also the GV80 Coupe has been introduced here in North America. I don't know why you would ever choose it. And it does look... I mean, I heard comments previously about the handling of the GV80 that sometimes it felt like one end of the vehicle had been tuned by one group of people and the other end had been tuned by a different group of people.
That doesn't sound good.
The GV80 Coupe expands that to make it look like one end was styled by one group and the other end... In fact, it's not the end, it's the top and bottom, really.
Right.
So it's a little strange looking, but it's never coming to the UK, so I guess I can say whatever I want now.
And as you're not in the UK either, so it's only me that has to field the phone call from
No,
Genesis.
but Genesis are very, but otherwise it's they're good vehicles with a good reputation, a way that maybe Infiniti doesn't necessarily have over here.
But talking of Infiniti, they are struggling in the UK with the Infiniti problem of not getting the traction they want. Just yet, but hopefully they stay the course where others have given up.
I would hope so.
Do you want to take us to the designer's mood board, which we haven't visited for quite a while?
We haven't. No, there's been not a lot of new color swatches being shown on there. Philip Romers, formerly of Volkswagen Group, responsible for or credited with the design of the previous generation Audi A6, the Mark 7 Volkswagen Golf, Audi A8, and the e-tron GT, has been appointed head of design at Polestar as Maximilian Missoni moves away and leaves. That's quite an interesting move. What it tells me is it's obviously someone who's quite happy continuing a design theme that has been established for some time. The only worry is there might end up being some really, really sharp creases appearing on some new Polestars in a little while. But then I look at the Polestar 4, which is pictured at the top of this article, and there's already a pretty sharp crease down the top of that front wing. So I'm expecting more of the same. I would be amazed if there is some significant and immediate change of design direction here. Partly because Polestar and Volvo, and they don't really do that kind of thing too much, but also given Romer's history.
Yep, well, good luck to him.
Point of interest, Andrew, and you're starting off with this week's lunchtime read, and it is a tale of adventure and daring do.
Yes, it's been a while since we've had one of these, and everyone who has listened to the show for a long time knows we love these. It's not always about the cars, it's what people do with the cars and the stuff they get up to. And this one is, as you say, quite the adventure. 20,000 miles in an amphibious Jeep.
Mm-hmm.
That's in 1956.
Yes. So not a lot of motorways.
No, and not a lot of, should we say, sophistication of the motor car, let alone a Jeep.
It was a Jeep to start with, and then it was the naval version, which is amphibious. So it's extra fun added there. And then, it's really an incredible and very cool story.
Yeah, you must click through and read this, and the pictures as well that just show what people got up to. I am always in awe of someone who says, "Yeah, I can make that work in whatever they're doing." There's the lady who's going to the Arctic Circle in an MG at the minute with her dad, whose name I've forgotten.
Pass.
Which is, and I'm so sorry for forgetting her name. Which is an amazing adventure to go on, particularly considering they've had mechanical issues from virtually the start to try and manage as they've gone up. But this is brilliant, and it makes me sit there and go, "Come on, you should do something,
Yeah,
even though you are mechanically inept. So take someone who isn't."
Yes, this could actually be one of the longest lunchtime reads we've ever given, because if you do enjoy the sort of summary story here from Haggerty, there is a link in it to the e-reader version that you can get as well of the full story called 20,000 Miles South, which is the book that they wrote, I assume, once they'd finished. But yeah, there's pictures of the seat in, looks like India, all sorts of places.
Yeah, they went to South America, all over the shop, funnily enough.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, stunning. Brilliant.
Fabulous. List of the week this week is from Jalopnik by Bradley Brownell, and it is the best cities for car culture.
Get ready for a US-centric.
It is very US-centric. Andrew, do you have a specific one given your wide experience of North America?
Yes, but the one I'd like to actually go and visit is Seattle.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes.
Because one, it wasn't one of the cliches.
Well, this also is true.
But two, the whole area around there is amazing. And Jalopnik claims there is a great mix of driving roads.
I seem to be in a particularly un-car zone. of the US, where there's not a lot of car shows or interesting things that happen on a regular basis. There are some, and I'm going to get told off for that, I'm sure, by at least one friend. He can't hear us at the minute. But yeah, no, it's a decent list. It does, include the Nürburgring. I think that's the closest to the UK.
Yeah. But there's some on there that I had no idea. There's some places that I had no idea, actually, like Seattle. I had no idea that it had any sort of car culture, let alone some of the others. Obviously, you think of California and LA, but there are other places around the country that I was like, oh, right, okay. I didn't know that.
Atlanta is another one that I hadn't really twigged until obviously I was there. And then you realise that not just Porsche, but there's other stuff round about. And just the roads were lovely. Just nice, drivey roads that were more interesting than the ones up here. I think possibly because there's fewer places on them and these kind of things. It was just, there's fewer sets of traffic lights and these kind of things. So yeah, lots of fun stuff. That leaves us with the and finally this week. And this is a cracker.
Yes, we've had this a little while in our running order because other and finallys have cropped up. We've done all right for and finallys, but by the way, just a quick shout out, anybody finds a list of the week they want to suggest, please do send it our way, because there is an almost desert-like appearance to our collection of list of the weeks. I nearly thought we were not going to be able to have a list this week. That's how bad it is.
That list of the week was from May, by the way. That gives you an idea of how far back we've had to dredge through our list of lists.
Yes. So any help, greatly appreciated.
Yes. As I was commiserating with someone from one of the larger British motoring magazines that quite often features as list of the weeks, that sadly generative AI has basically killed off the listicle because there was that whole surge of ones that were just rubbish.
Yep.
And as a result, people don't click on them as much. But we never used ones that we are aware are created using generative AI, by the way.
No, it's one of our policies. We don't have many policies, but that's one of them.
We don't. That's one, and it's one that we really do kind of stick to.
Yeah. Anyway, the and finally is from Haggerty, and it is titled, "This Desktop Wind Tunnel Will Bring Out Your Inner Adrian Newey." And yes, you can put a model car, toy car, probably about the size of a Hot Wheels.
It comes in 3 different sizes.
Oh, sorry, yes.
You can do it with 1 to 18, 1 to 24, and 1 to 64. If you go for the littlest one, then it's perfect for sort of Hot Wheels type stuff.
Yeah.
And of course, if you've got bigger Burago and other fancy models, then you can go for the big. Sorry.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Then you can watch exactly how good the aero of that car or that model is or is not. And there is also a video to show you it working as well. Do click through on the link. That's fab. God, I wouldn't get any work done.
I barely would get any work done anyway, and this really wouldn't help. But they're very cool. It's a fantastic little fun thing to have.
It's lovely design as well.
It's nicely done.
The outer packaging. Yeah.
It's not just a box.
No, there's a proper team have got together here to do it all. I like this a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I hope they sell them all.
Yes, well, we're also open to demo units.
Yes, just for the
we can have it for
15 years.
Have it for a week and then try all the different model cars in it.
Yes,
awesomeness.
Think that's us.
Yes, I think that is us for this week. But don't forget, between now and next week, you can give us any feedback, share your thoughts for the show at Motoring Podcast on Twitter and Instagram, on Facebook, and on the contact page of motoringpodcast.com, the hub of all our activities. Remember, you can support us financially via Patreon, and please leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts, whatever platform you're using that on, or however your podcast app lets you do such a thing. Andrew, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me is if you search for Crack Windscreen on Mastodon. I'm on Twitter, but I'm not really on Twitter at the moment for obvious reasons. Or you could look for me under my proper name on LinkedIn. I am there. And Alan, if people would like to get in touch with you personally, what's the best way for them to do that? Any
of the social media platforms used by grown-ups. I am on Twitter a little bit more than Andrew, but not as much as they used to be. But whichever platform you use, I am at AJP Bradley. That's Bradley, because people get sad when I don't spell it out.
We do.
We'll be back very soon. But until then, I've been Alan Bradley.
I've been Andrew Clues.
And safe motoring.